DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is you say you, Y-O-U, too much. I'm explaining to you where this episode is coming from in a second. But first of all, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my text message number down below in the description. Once we start sending that out again, I'll be talking to you all about that a lot more. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is where you can have me as your direct coach. That is where you can get access to me directly and personally when it comes to, first of all, getting your mindset in the right place. Secondly, your game plan, your plan of action, what exactly is going to happen. Third, your systems. How do we make your plan of action happen over and over again, consistently and predictably? And last, accountability for full implementation. How do we make sure everything gets done the way it's supposed to be getting done all the time, every day, by the people who are supposed to be doing it, which include yourself. That is all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. You're ready to take yourself to the top 2% of what you do right now instead of later. But right now, workonyourgameuniversity.com. This topic, you say you too often, is something that is an actual critique that I have gotten from more than one person over the years. I've had more than one person say this to me, that you use the word you, Y-O-U, all the time or often when you are giving examples or explaining points, etc. So most recently, I was doing a live stream and someone left a comment on TikTok, which is the app that surprisingly to me, it's not surprising anymore, but it was surprising when it first started, that my live streams on TikTok were getting more viewers, likes, engagement, followers, whatever vanity metric you want to name. I was getting more response on TikTok than on any other platform. So for now, shout out to TikTok for offering that engagement that I've gotten from doing the live streams there. Someone on TikTok just about a week or two ago from the date I'm recording this left this comment. They said, you use this word a lot and it might put somebody on the defensive. And the way they were framing it was as if I was being a little bit too direct and upfront with, or to the commentator who was making this observation. And a few years ago, when I was looking at reviews for my book, Work on Your Game, on Amazon, I noticed someone had left me a 2-star review on my book. And one of the things that they said was that the author uses the word you, Y-O-U, too often in the book. And they were saying the same thing that this commentator on TikTok recently said, which is it could put somebody on a defensive and make it feel like you're kind of like pointing the finger at them and being a little bit too direct and too confrontational, for lack of a better term, with that person. I will note from the beginning that both of these people were women. It was a woman who left that Amazon review. It was a woman who left this comment on TikTok. And there are probably women who have thought this same thing, but have not expressed it directly, at least not in a way that I know about it in my past, because I've talked like this for a long time. This is not a new way of communicating that I just came up with out of nowhere. One thing I will tell you, as I just said, both females, both probably under the age of 30, in an era where if you are told that someone being direct and straight to the point with you is reason for offense, and more egregiously, a reason to bring it up as if the other person has made a mistake, which is the way people have framed this when talking to me. Today, I'm going to address this line of thinking and the comment that some people may think that I use the word you too often in a way that, listen, it may offend some people, it may put some people off. I'm going to express exactly where that comes from, why I do it, and what I feel about that criticism compendiously. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic once again is, Dre, you say you too often. Number one, no, I don't. Here's my response. No, comma, I don't, period. I don't say it too often. I use it the perfect amount. As a matter of fact, I should probably use it more. The word you, Y-O-U. The word you know what it does? First of all, it gets your attention, because when I say you know I'm talking to you. I'm not being passive. I'm being active, and I'm being direct in getting your attention, let you know I'm talking about you. I'm not just talking about some nameless and faceless person. It gets people's attention because they know that you are not speaking in a general sense when you say you, even though I technically am, because I'm talking into a microphone. I don't know who exactly is listening to this, but I know that there's more than one person listening to it, and I don't But most of you who are listening to this, I do not know you personally. I don't have a personal relationship with you. I've never met you, shook your hand, I had a direct conversation with you. But when I say the word you are taking it as if I'm speaking directly to you. And for many of you, I am speaking directly to you because the things that I speak about on this show are based on the things that I understand people in my audience are going through because I know my audience very well. You understand what I'm saying here? So oftentimes I will say things on this show such as some people do ABC or some of us XYZ, but I like to use the word you more than I like to use some people or some of us. And it was even suggested to me by this commentator on TikTok, like, hey, instead, maybe you should say some of us or some people. And I said, no, fuck that. That's the feminine way and the passive way of doing things. You're a female, and I understand your passivity, but I'm not a female, and I ain't you, and this ain't your audience, so you can't really tell me the way that I should use words. And I'm pretty good at using words. I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'll get into that as we get into this episode. I like the word you because it snaps people to attention. See, if I'm talking to a room of 10 people and I start saying, well, some people, you know how some people sometimes do this and some of us this, people can passively hear what I'm saying. But if I say you, then everybody's kind of listening a little bit more because it sounds like I'm talking directly to you because each one of the 10 people in the room is receiving the message as if I'm only talking to them. They're not thinking about how everybody else is taking it. They're taking it how they are taking it. And some people will be put off by that. Some people will be offended by that. Some people will be taken aback by that. Some people will feel attacked by that. My response to that is good. Good. I'm glad you feel offended, put off, attacked, and as if somebody's going on offensive against you. Because if that offends you, then I'm not the person who you're going to be working with, and probably not even going to be listening to me that often. Good. I want to make it clear who you are, so that you're clear who I am, so that you can find the exit as quickly as possible, so that I can narrow down the room. So I'm only talking to people who actually want and need to hear it exactly as I'm giving it to them. So I'm happy if this puts some people off. Everybody caught that? So I don't want to give people wiggle room out from under whatever it is that I'm saying, especially if it directly applies to you. Because I'm not trying to be indirect. I don't do indirect things. If I'm communicating with someone, I want them to know I'm communicating with them, and I want them to be clear on exactly what I'm communicating to them. That's just the type of person that I am. And it makes it clear to the consumer exactly how I communicate and exactly why I'm doing it. And I'm explaining it even further here. By the way, in both live streams in which this comment came up, and again, that Amazon review that I referred to, everyone in those audiences understood that I am in the, I guess you can call it a self-help business. This material is designed to make you a higher quality person by following the processes in front of you. So if I can't say you when I am literally in the space of helping individuals like you get better personally and professionally, well, how are you going to get the point? The fact is, you won't. This is why many people don't get the point, because many people don't want to hear anything that will directly challenge them, especially if it's something that could possibly be critical. Most people don't want to hear anything critical. They want to hear positive things directed straight at them, but they only want to hear anything that could possibly be critical. They want it to kind of be softened by saying, well, some people, or maybe this is you, or perhaps. So they want to hear it that way when it's critical, but when it's positive, they want it all directed straight at them. Bullshit. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is Dre, you say the word you too often. Number 2, if you believe this, if you have this mindset, some of you listening to this may be listening and thinking, you know what, Dre, you know what, you're right. Not you're right, but the commentator's right. You do say the word you too often. I will let you know this. Here's point number 2. This ain't for you. I'm not for you. Just so everybody here who is listening understands, okay? I will never stop using the word you just because a few people in the vocal minority, as we call it, don't like it and wish to reject the concept of them being directly spoken to with something that could possibly be critical or something that could possibly be challenging them. This is the only time people have a problem with it. See, if I was saying you, and I was saying all positive stuff about you that made you look like a superstar, you'd be happy. You'd be accepting all of it. But if I say you, and I'm saying things that may be critical or challenging of you, even though, again, I'm not talking to any individual person right now, I'm just talking in general, but I'm talking to a specific audience. You are listening to this as yourself and not thinking about the other hundreds or thousands of people who are listening to this episode at the same time. If it's something critical, then people tend to take it more personally, and they tend to take affront. They take it as an affront because you're being told something critical directly to your face. But if I was telling you something positive, you wouldn't have a problem. And if you can't weigh that emotionally and balance that out, then you are not the right type of person for my audience, because it's only going to get worse. The more you listen to me, the more you're not going to like it. And this is usually when someone comes with this, you're saying you too often, whether you think it or you verbally express it. is often because they're hearing something that is challenging of them and something that is hitting a little bit too close to home. So they don't like the fact that the word you is being used so often because it reminds them a little bit too much of a flaw or an area for improvement that that person would rather just ignore. So that's why they get around to saying that comment. So that woman on TikTok who left the comment and said, you say the word you often, it was probably because at the moment when she left that comment, I had previously been saying something that was hitting a little bit too close to home for her. And I was using the word you, and she was realizing that it was reflecting on her because there were literally thousands of people watching. When I do my lives on TikTok, I get thousands of people watching every time I go live. And it's 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, by the way. And nobody else made that comment. Only she made the comment. Why did she make that comment? She made that comment because I was saying something that was hitting a little bit too close to home for her. It was making her a little bit too uncomfortable. And she happened to have the right mix of being the type of person who might say something to someone like myself when I'm on my live stream and flowing and saying what I'm saying. I understand that many people who listen to the stuff that I do, whether on a live stream or on this show, you may hear something that you may have a critical thought or opinion on, but you don't ever build up the gumption to actually say it to me because you might have the idea that I'll have a pretty good response to whatever it is that you have to say. And you know what? You're right. I will. I will have a pretty anything that you say about anything that I've said on this show that you wish to challenge. I'm going to have a pretty good response to whatever your challenge is. Doesn't mean you can't bring the challenge, but I'm going to have an answer to it of whatever you're saying. And the bottom line is going to be, I'm probably going to end up being right. I'm saying that in a facetious kind of tongue-in-cheek type of way, but I'm also not joking. I am going to end up being right because I know what the hell I'm talking about. I've been doing this show for 3,000 days straight for a reason because I know what I'm doing. And I have the audience that I have for a reason because I know what I'm doing. And if you happen to disagree with something that I say, it doesn't make you wrong to disagree, but you're not going to change my position because you disagree. So either you're going to come around to seeing things my way or you're going to find somebody else to listen to. Those are only two options you got. I'll tell you that up front. And what I'm looking for is the people who already see things my way and appreciate the fact that I'm saying them and they want to come further into the world of work on your game. That's what I'm looking for. But if you're not one of those people, you're free to continue to listen. I put this out for free for a reason. All right? Anybody, you can hate listen to this show if you want to, or you can hate watch me if you wish. So I often emphasize, everybody, that what gets shared here on this show or on anything I put out on social media, anything I write in an email, anything I've written in a book, even things that I say from the stage, these are not made for everybody. I am not trying to have the general acceptance of all of the public. That's going to be impossible, especially with the things that I'm already on the record as having said. It's going to be impossible for me to be generally accepted by everybody because to do that, and when I say everybody, I don't mean literally every human, but just widespread, that means you pretty much got to stay away from any subject that might possibly offend people. In other words, you can't talk about any hot button social issue or current event in which people have divided opinions. I mean, you can't talk on any of it. And if you speak on any one of those things, as soon as you start talking about it, you're going to start offending some people. If you want to be widespread accepted, you pretty much have to leave all those topics alone for the most part. Pretty much you got to stay quiet. I'm not that type of person. One of the things that I have told you all, I did an episode on why you should start a podcast. The only reason any of you should ever start a podcast is because you have some things that you want to say that you can't not say. Or let me back up. Let me not say it that way. If you're going to be putting out material where it's just you talking, you should only do it if you have some things that you want to say that you can't hold in and you can't not say them out loud. That's who I am, and that's why I do the show. I do the show because I have things that I absolutely have to say, and they have to be on the record, and I got to make sure that the world knows that this is where I stand and this is what I have to say. And if you don't think that way, then you can still create content. Maybe you'll do it a different way. Maybe you could do an interview show where you're just interviewing people and you're not really sharing your opinion. You're letting them share their opinion. That's a completely different approach. This approach, I'm doing it this way for a reason. And I just told you what the reason is. So this show is for people who are serious about getting better, advancing, stepping up their game, and making the most of their potential and the resources they have available in their lives. Now, does every human on the planet fit that description? Answer is hell no. Now, if you ask most people if that's an accurate way of describing them, almost everybody will say yes. But if you look at most people's behaviors, the answer is absolutely not. I talked about this in episode 1364, where I talked about the concept of what we call rejection marketing. Rejection marketing is about actively marketing in such a way that the wrong people are pushed out of your space. I've been doing some rejection marketing right here in the first 15 minutes of this episode. I'm literally telling you that if this is you or you don't see things this way, then you probably should leave and stop listening to me because I'm not for you. That is rejection marketing. I'm not here trying to make sure that everybody who listens likes this and everybody who listens feels welcomed and accepted here. That ain't the goal. I come from the sports world. The sports world, everybody is not welcome. Not everybody is accepted. The sports world is exclusive, not inclusive. It is exclusive, meaning there's only 50 roster spots on the football team. Everybody can't be on the football team. There's only 12 people on the basketball team. Everybody can't be on the basketball team. Even if everybody wants to be, not everybody can be. And that the frame from which everything that I talk about comes from is my background as an athlete. In the sports world, it is about performance. It is about producing results. Not everybody can be on the team. We have diversity in skill, not diversity of color or any other ideology or immutable characteristic. And if you cannot perform, you get kicked out of the room, period. And if you are the type of person, I'm talking to you now who's listening to this, you're the type of person who would not do well in such an environment, get the hell out of here, because I'm going to say something that offends you sooner or later. Hopefully sooner, so I can save you some time and you can save me some bandwidth, and you're not taking up space in my audience. Empty that seat so I can put somebody in it who belongs there, because it ain't you. That's the world that I come from. Just in case anybody was unfamiliar or any of you have been listening for a while, you forgot. All right, many people who want to put themselves out there in the world have one singular issue, in that they are unwilling to say or do anything that might offend somebody, even if the people who you offend are people who have no interest in becoming your customer or client or going deeper into your world anyway. So these people who say, Dre, you say the word you too much, these people would never become a member of Work on Your Game University. Aside from that, Amazon reviewer probably would never want to read one of my books, at least not one that they went and bought. They're not coming any further into my world, so I don't care if I offend you. Actually, I do care that I offend you. I'm glad that I offend you, because I can use you as an example to show the people who I don't offend, hey, it is the type of people that we don't want to connect with. And they agree with that, and that brings them further into my world. Because people like being a part of something not everybody's going to be a part of. So I actually like the fact that there are some people who are outsiders here, and I like the fact that they tell me why, because it helps me galvanize the people who are the insiders. Does everybody understand that? This is the us versus them dynamic, and yes, it's a real thing. So offend people, get rid of them as quickly as possible. There's nothing wrong with doing this. Many people are too scared and too pussy to do this with their audiences. And this is one of the reasons why you can't find your ideal people, because you ain't saying anything. You're not saying anything worthy of getting people to, again, go further with you. Some people don't like the fact that I use the word you so often, and they've already gotten rid of themselves. Again, most of them don't say anything to me. Most people just leave. And I'm working on a few of you right now. Point number 3, today's topic once again is, Dre, you use the word you too often. Number 3, this is endemic. This whole concept is endemic of the weak, passive society that we currently reside in. Especially those of us who live in Western society. You live in the Western world. We are in a very weak and a very passive society of just people who just have no backbones, no balls whatsoever. And I blame the men for this. Women are being platformed and censored these days, but I don't blame women, because if all the men got together and said whatever rights or privileges women have been given, we're taking them all back, there's nothing women can do to defend themselves and fight back. It'd be over. So the only reason that anything that you see women doing, saying, or representing, anything you see, men, that you disagree with or you don't like, the reason it exists is because there are some men out there defending it. Because if men stop defending it, then women would have no recourse but to give it up. Period. Feminism only exists because a man will somehow, somewhere, some way, somehow will defend feminism. That's it. Women don't have the physicality or the power to make men, to subjugate men to follow whatever they want men to do. Men have the power to do that to women. Women don't have the power to do it to men. So the reason we have a weak society and our society has become so feminized because we got a bunch of men with no testicles, or behaving as if they don't have any testicles, or men with female emotions and female mindsets trapped inside of a man's body. That's why it's happening right now. So I'm really addressing the men right now. This is what I touched on in the intro to this episode here today. We are just in a generally weak society where people are not willing to be told the truth of their situations to their faces. People want to be pacified. They prioritize happiness, being content, and never having any type of pressure or stress on their shoulders. And again, I'm mostly referring to men here when I say all this stuff. It's okay for a woman or a child to not want to feel pressured or stressed and to want to be happy and content and be pacified. It's okay for a woman to have these desires. So when a woman expresses these things, it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when men co-sign this, because a man should not be thinking this way. Because if a woman thinks that way and a man thinks that way, well, who the fuck's going to go out there and do the work? Who's going to put their nuts on the line so that we stay safe and we keep a strong society? If the man ain't doing it, women ain't doing it, we got a problem. And we do have a problem. People who are mentally and emotionally strong and like communicating in a direct way appreciate when someone like me comes along and says the word you often in conversation, because it leaves no room for ambiguity and no room for anyone claiming to not understand that something was said directly to or about them. And as we know, most people would rather be passive and indirect. Why? Because it's less emotionally challenging. There's some strategic advantage to being passive and indirect because many people don't want to be dealt with head on. So if you're trying to reach the masses of people without knowing who you're talking to, yes, passive and indirectness will appeal to a certain segment of the population. And there's a possibility that dealing with someone telling you a truth about yourself that you've either been ignoring or trying to avoid, you need someone to look you in your face and say, why, oh, you, directly to your face, and deal with the discomfort of how that feels. Why? Because it might move you to actually fucking do something rather than continuing to rationalize the situation, which is what most people do, or what you have been doing up to this point. All right, see what I did there? Let's recap today's class, which is, Dre, you say you too often. Again, this is a critique that I've heard more than once over the years, most recently a commentator when I was doing a live stream on TikTok. Let's address it. Point number one, no, I don't. I actually should say it more often. I should use the word you more often because I like to be direct. I like to get straight to the point. I like to be no BS, no fluff when I'm communicating with people. If you ask the people who work with me, who have the most appreciation for my style, you ask them, what is it about Dre's style? This is exactly what they say. Right? The guy's direct, no fluff, real, keeps it to the point, no sugarcoating. And that's what they like. It has nothing to do with the actual content. It's the context. Point number two, if you think I say you too often, I'm not for you. My approach is not for you. Work on your game is not for you. I will never stop using this word just because a few people in the vocal minority don't like it, because the people in the vocal minority ain't the people I'm trying to reach any fucking way. So y'all are not the people I'm even trying to, it's not even appease is the wrong word. The people that I'm trying to reach. I'm not trying to get you on my side. I actively participate in rejection marketing. Rejection marketing is doing things on purpose to push people away from you. I do that on purpose all the time, and I will continue to do it. And now that I know that this is rejecting people, I'm going to do it even more. Number three, this is endemic of a weak, passive society. We have a society of pussies. I'm talking about men. Because the only way our society can become so feminized is not because women want it to be feminized, because again, women don't have the power to make society how they want it. A man has to co-sign it somewhere along the way. And a lot of men have co-signed this nonsense. This is how we got here. And it's only going to get worse until or unless men step up and say, okay, enough of the nonsense. We're going to go back to the way it's supposed to be and the way it was made by our creator, whoever your creator was. None of them created civilization for women to tell men what to do. That was never created that way. It was never created for men to be the second in line to a woman. All right, it just wasn't designed that way. And even ladies here who are able to have some balls, metaphorically speaking, and understand reality, agree with what I just said. Okay, that's just what it is. All that being said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. If I have not pissed you off, then you're the right type of person. You're the type of person who I'm looking for. Go to Work on Your Game University. Take the next steps to have me as your direct coach, and let's get directly on task for getting you where you want to be by the end of your year. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all